Alright, so this video is going to serve as a walkthrough slash explanation of the non-fictional annotations you saw in the Nearpod. They are going to be covering the same teacher model that you did see in the Nearpod, so you can kind of go along with that and you'll have the explanations for it. We are going to be following the steps of annotating a text, much like we did in the fictional explanation if you did watch that one. So basically we're going to be previewing it, chunking it, rereading, reviewing, and repeating. So the first thing that we definitely have to do is realize that it is a nonfiction text. So when you're using your annotation guide, you're going to be using the nonfiction one. Nonfiction texts are based on facts. So let's take a preview. It says skim effectively and notate any eye-catching text or images. Well, there's no subtitles, no subsections, but the title does say Harriet Tubman replaces Andrew Jackson on $20 bill. And it's by PBS. So I do know that PBS is the public broadcasting station, and so it's going to be in the form of like a news article. I also know that the main topic is definitely going to be about Harriet Tubman, Andrew Jackson, and the $20 bill. So in my mind, I might be trying to recall who is Harriet Tubman, who is Andrew Jackson, and why would this even be important? So before we do any of the other steps, we kind of have to read. So we're going to read the text as a whole, and then we're going to chunk it. So, the Treasury Department announced Wednesday that famous Civil War-era abolitionist and Underground Railroad leader Harriet Tubman will replace President Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. The decision followed months of speculation about which famous American woman would be chosen after Treasury Secretary Jack Lew announced a plan to feature a woman on the $10 bill last June. Fans of Alexander Hamilton, the first Treasury Secretary who currently resides on the $10 bill, were quick to oppose his removal, causing the Treasury Department to reconsider the plan. Hearing feedback from millions of Americans, Lew said he realized that just changing the face of one bill would not be enough. Once you start doing more things, it gives you the ability to tell more stories, Lew said. He explained that changes will also be made to the $5 bill and $10 bills. Civil rights activists Marian Anderson, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Martin Luther King Jr. will be added to the back of the $5 bill, while the back of the $10 bill will be featured 5 famous women suffragists. The new $20 bill will be released in 2020 to coincide with the 100-year anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. Okay, so there's a lot of information in there, and we're going to break it down, but to be able to do that, we do need to chunk. Now I'm going to explain that I did not chunk this as I normally would have you chunk it, which is by paragraphs, because these paragraphs are of varying length. There's 4 of them, so I actually just chunked it into 2 big pieces. But remember, when it comes to chunking, you're going to do what works best for you. Most people, it is paragraphs. For me, I tend to read several paragraphs at a time. For somebody like my brother or my son, they only like to do about 4 or 5 sentences at a time. So you chunk in the way that works best for you. So let's take a look at it. So again, I chunked it 2 paragraphs and 2 paragraphs. So paragraph 1 and 2, as you see, there is space around that I have provided and in between, so that you'll have plenty of room for annotations when you do your own. And that way you can see how I want yours to look when you complete your practice tomorrow. All right, so here are my annotations. They are not perfect. They may not encompass everything, and you may disagree with them. But this is just serves as an example. So it says the Treasury Department announced Wednesday that famous Civil War-era abolitionist and Underground Railroad leader Harriet Tubman will replace President Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. So what's the first thing that I noticed? Well, this is coming directly from the source that handles money. The Treasury Department prints the money, determines what's on the money, so they are the authority. So I did make a little arrow there that says that they handle it. Also notice that I placed a little 1 and 2 to distinguish my paragraphs. So then I underlined what I thought was important information. Civil War era abolitionist, Underground Railroad. That obviously links to Harriet Tubman. To make that more clear, I should have drawn arrows, but I did not. And then replace. I found that that was a really important word, because they're not just saying like temporarily changing. They want Harriet Tubman to replace Andrew Jackson. I also underlined those terms because they were really important to the claim. So President Andrew Jackson. Okay, well, what do I know about Andrew Jackson? That's when I'm going to really start, linking it to my prior knowledge, to those history classes. And he kind of stands in what we would call juxtaposition, or two different things that are side by side. Harriet Tubman worked to free slaves. Andrew Jackson was known to have slaves. So, two very different things. So that led me to a question, and I put it up here. Why do they want to replace Andrew Jackson with Harriet Tubman? Because just reading that first paragraph, I'm not told why. I kind of have a hint by the important phrases they're using, but I haven't outright been told. So now let's move on. The decision followed months of speculation about which famous American woman would be chosen after Treasury Secretary Jack Lew announced a plan to feature a woman on the $10 bill last June. So I underlined months of speculation because that tells me that's not a quick decision. And here's some background information on the original plan. So originally, it wasn't about the $20 bill. It was about the $10 bill, and they were looking for a famous American woman. They don't give us the criteria for that, but having read that they're trying to choose Harriet Tubman, we kind of have an idea which way Mr. Lew was going. So his first plan was to feature that chosen woman on the $10 bill, and it was in June, the last June, not this June, but the last June, so 2019. Okay, so now I know the original plan. So what happened? Fans of Alexander Hamilton, the first Secretary of Treasury, who currently resides on the $10 bill, were quick to oppose his removal, causing the Treasury Department to reconsider the plan. Okay, so now we definitely know who's on the $10 bill, Alexander Hamilton. We know why he's important. I used the arrows to draw my connection. He's the first Treasury Secretary, but I also know that Alexander Hamilton is pretty popular right now. Most of you will have at least heard of the play, the Broadway play with Lin-Manuel, and he's become very, very popular and very beloved to people. So you could see maybe why there might be an uproar of removing him from it. So now we know that the $10 bill was thrown out because too many people were opposing it. So now I can create my hashtag. So Harriet Tubman, and I'd use HT because remember I told you use symbols and annotations that work for you, might replace Andrew Jackson, AJ, on $20 bill because the first plan for Harriet Tubman to replace Alexander Hamilton was opposed. Okay, so we know that he chose Tubman for a reason, and we know why, right? Because she was a Civil War abolitionist and an Underground Railroad leader. But people did not want her to replace Alexander Hamilton, so maybe there's a reason they're choosing President Andrew Jackson. It might be easier to make that change. At least that's what I can infer or make an educated guess about. So let's look at this paragraphs 3 and 4. Hearing feedback from millions of Americans, Lew said that he realized that just changing the face of one bill would not be enough. So I underlined feedback from millions of Americans because that tells me it's not just a few opinions. He really wanted to know what the American people wanted, which is probably a good idea after his first plan fell apart because so many people opposed it. So he's also indicating that now it's not just about Harriet Tubman replacing Andrew Jackson, but now he wants to do more than that. More people need to be represented. So let's see. These are direct quotations, so this is Mr. Lew speaking. And once you start doing more things, it gives you the ability to tell more stories, Lew said. So now we know that he wants to tell more stories. But my question is, what story? What kind of story? Is it about women like Harriet Tubman? Is it more American stories? What kind of stories is he talking about? He explained that changes will also be made to the $5 bill and the $10 bills. So now he's actually expanded outside. He is going to do the $20 bill, the $10 bill, and the $5 bill. So now every bill is going to have something different, okay? Civil rights activists Marian Anderson, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Martin Luther King Jr. will be added to the back of the $5 bill, while the back of the $10 bill will feature 5 famous women suffragists. Okay, so let's look at that. So now it went from that one simple plan that fell apart, right, for Harriet Tubman to replace Alexander Hamilton, to now there's been many changes. So he's making allusions by talking about Marian Anderson, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Martin Luther King Jr., who have had an impact on civil rights. But if you don't know who those people are, it might be hard to make that connection. But these are people that changed the face of America. These are people that helped the American people. And then he not only wants to stop there, like he doesn't want to just start right there with the $5 bill. And notice he says the back of it. So he's not necessarily going to be replacing the front, just the back. And then now he's looking at the $10 bill for 5 famous women suffragists. He does not name who those suffragists are. And some of you might be wondering, what is a suffragist? A suffragist is somebody that helps fight for your right to vote. So now we're kind of getting an idea of what kind of story he wants to tell. And that's why I have answer to my question is right here. He wants to tell the story of Americans that have shaped the American history, the population, the society, have made good changes. And so that's what the story he's trying to tell. And by taking off somebody like President Andrew Jackson, who was a slave owner, he's trying to rewrite history. He wants you to see that the United States is more than that, and that Americans have many different faces. See how we got all of that from just a little bit so far? So let's finish it off with our paragraph number 4. The new $20 bill will be released in 2020 to coincide with the 100-year anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. So here's a connection that I did not indicate, but it does connect right here. So the $10 bill was going to have suffragists, well, women's right to vote, the 19th Amendment. So also I have my connection. If I didn't know what the 19th Amendment was here, I can use context clues that was what gave the women the right to vote. So I put coincides to occur at the same time. So he's been very purposeful. He's not kind of just saying, nope, we're going to release it whenever. He wants it to make an impact. He wants it to have symbolism. Okay, so what's my hashtag? In order to share the stories of people who changed America, their pictures will appear on the different dollar bills, right? So here's my question. What is the author's claim? What is the author trying to explain to you? Well, luckily, we know that from the very title of it, they're talking about changing the pictures of people on money. So basically, the claim is that the Treasury Department is trying to take steps to change money to be more representative of people within the United States. Most importantly, of people who helped change America for the better. So it seems like the Treasury Department is trying to take steps for social change, to kind of be more with the times. And so that is kind of a claim that we might discuss, or we are really going to discuss in the next unit.